This is chapter 18 of The Car. We can't go in there. Terry stopped the cat at the entrance to the commune. Wayne stopped in back of them. Following after Terry flashed his lights and brought him back. They had moved down a gravel road for 3 miles, following signs with a cross and a flower on them, and were now at a driveway leading under a metal arch with a steel cross welded in the middle. It was all painted white and seemed well kept. The driveway itself went into a stand of trees, and a huge white house could be seen over them. It says welcome to all who believe, Wayland said, noting a sign to the side of the entry. Don't you believe? Well, I guess so, but then we go in. We're here to learn. Let's go see what they do in a religious commune. Terry put the cat in gear and nosed in the driveway. Heard the Harley rumbling in back of him and kept it low, moving slowly all the way up to the house. Everything about the place seemed to be white and well attended and very prosperous. The house was more like an old-fashioned hotel, a large box with a peaked roof and what seemed to be dozens and dozens of small windows. Out of sight from the road, but coming into view as they drove into the yard, there were large metal open front buildings with tractors, combines, and other machinery inside. It all seemed new. There were children running in the yard, playing, and they stopped and stared at the cat and the Harley as Terry, Wayland, and Wayne drove up. The children were 6 or 7. There were 8 of them, and they were all boys wearing dark pants and white shirts and felt hats that made them look like they were mimicking grown-ups. Initially, no adults showed, but as Wayland got out of the cat, 2 men walking up from one of the machine sheds. They were wearing white shirts, felt hats, and black pants and suspenders, larger versions of the boys, and they walked slowly, looking at the car and the Harley, and particularly at Wayne, who looked every inch the biker. "This is nuts," Terry said. "I'm really feeling embarrassed." "It gets better," Wayland said, looking over the top of the car at the men, who were getting close. "Good morning. Isn't it a beautiful day?" The men stopped, half smiling. One nodded, and the other stood silently staring openly at the Harley. "We were driving by and saw your sign, and my nephew here wanted to know more about you. Is it all right if we talk to you for a bit?" Terry wished he could curl up in the car and hide. Wondered what would happen if he just backed up and drove away. "What would you like to know?" the man who had nodded asked. "Well, I'm not sure." Wayland turned to Terry. "What was it you wanted to know?" "Me? Well, you're the one who wanted to come and talk to them. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what I wanted to know." Terry recovered quickly. "Just how it is here. How it is to live here." The man nodded. "We get people who are curious all the time. If you wait here, I will go and return with Peter." They talked funny. Terry decided or different, shaping each word carefully to say it right or something. The young man who had spoken went off, but the other one was still studying the Harley. Finally, he coughed softly and smiled at Wayne. "That is a beautiful motorcycle," he said it slowly. The words motor and cycle separated and spoken distinctly. "It's Baby," Wayne said. "Baby. The name of the bike, motorcycle. I call her Baby." You have named the motorcycle?" "Right on. She's my friend." "But it is a machine, yes?" Wayne seemed shocked. "Machine? Baby? This is a bike. This is a Harley. A Harley, man. It's a ride. You know what I mean. It's not a machine. It's like a way to live." The young man nodded slowly, as if understanding, but his expression was clearly bewildered, and he seemed about to say more when the first man came out of the house. He was being led by an older man, Terry thought in his 60s or 70s, older than Wayne and Waylon, who came forward, smiling, and held his hand out to Waylon. "Good day. I am Peter. Can I help you to know something?" Waylon shook hands. "My nephew here was curious as to how you lived here, and I said I would bring him in to ask, if you don't mind." "Not at all. Not at all." Peter turned to Terry. "What is it you would like to know?" He had smiling eyes and gray hair, long enough to just cover the top of his ears, and gray eyebrows, and nostrils, and ear hair that stuck out. "I'm not sure." Terry shot a look at Waylon. "Just what it's like to live here, I guess." "We work together and live in God's way," Peter said. "It is very simple to do. Would you like to look around?" Terry, still sitting in the car, nodded and realized with the nod that he truly did. He opened the door and climbed out, stretched, and was surprised to find Peter holding his hand out. Terry shook hands awkwardly and realized it was the first time in his life he'd ever done it, shaking hands with someone. "After I show you how we live, it will be time for the midday meal. Would you please join us for food?" Waylon said nothing, and Terry was going to turn him down. It seemed to bother, but Wayne smiled. "Far out. We'd love it, man." Peter led off with the three of them following, and Terry looked back to find one of the other young men following them, as well as all the boys who had been playing in the yard. The man who had been talking with Wayne about the bike hung back and stood next to Baby, staring intently, as if to memorize every bolt and bit of chrome. Peter saw it as well and stopped. "Joseph, we are going now." Joseph looked up. "It's so shiny." "Yes, it is. But it is a graven image. You must come now." "Yes, Papa." And Joseph came with them, though looking back once at Baby. "I must ask you not to take photographs," Peter said. It is against our practice to keep images." Waylon nodded. "We don't have a camera." "That is fine." He led them to the machine barns where there were new tractors, other equipment looking clean and well cared for, and other young men working, all dressed the same. "You use modern equipment?" Waylon said. Not horses and buggies?" Peter nodded. "That is correct. We are not as fundamental as other sects, at least not in our working methods. But in our beliefs, yes. We believe the same, we just work the land differently." Peter took them to a shed where a machine run by a middle-aged man was making brooms. "For selling in the stores," Peter said, "to make money to buy what material goods we need." After the broom shed, he took them to the beehives, where a man was inspecting combs to see that the bees were making honey, and hog pens, and a pasture full of sleek black and white cows. "It all looks so," Terry thought for words, "fat." "Everything looks full and fat somehow," Peter smiled. "It is so that our work brings forth much fruit." It all fascinated Terry, and he pointed at things and asked questions, and they walked around the farm for half an hour and more while Peter showed them their lives. And they were moving back toward the house when it struck Terry that Waylon and Wayne had both grown silent, seemed to be thinking, but he had seen them do it before and thought it must be some memory bothering them. Waylon rubbed the back of his neck and looked around the farm. "Where are the women?" Peter hadn't heard the question and turned. "What did you say?" "It's all boys and men. I haven't seen any girls or women," Waylon said. "Where are they?" "They are inside," Peter said. "It is not fit for them to meet strangers. They are inside preparing the meal. Come, let us eat." He led them to the big house, passing through a side door and that led to an entrance hallway with coats and boots hung on pegs on the wall. To the left of the hall, there was a doorway leading into a kitchen that Peter showed them in passing. It was huge, like a kitchen for a large school, and as Peter had said, the women were there. They were each dressed in long-sleeved, long, dark dress and wore their hair up with a small white cap covering it. And not one of them looked at Wayne or Waylon or Terry. There were little girls and teenage girls and young women and older women, all working over the stoves and pots that bubbled and hissed. The kitchen was viciously hot, no air conditioning, and the dresses looked uncomfortable. Many of the women and girls were covered with perspiration, their dresses sticking to them, but they seemed cheerful for that. Peter led the men out of the kitchen and to the dining hall, a large room with windows on the east side of the house, which was filling up with men and boys, all sitting at long tables where there were plates and silverware waiting. Peter directed them to a table. "Please, sit. They will bring food soon." The three of them sat, Waylon and Terry on one side, Wayne on the other side with Peter at the end. No sooner had they settled in than the woman started bringing pots of food in from the kitchen on carts, ladling steaming potatoes and meat onto plates. It smelled delicious, and Terry picked up his fork to mash the potatoes, keenly aware that he hadn't had a proper meal in over 3 weeks, but noticed that nobody else was eating and put the fork down. Peter waited until the room was silent. "We give thanks now to the Lord who gives us all, shows us all is all. Amen." The rest of the room, there were at least 30 boys and men, chorused Amen, and then fell to eating. There was no talk. They eat fast, swallowing hugely like wolves. Terry thought, and he found himself doing the same. It tasted as good as it smelled, and he ate until he couldn't move, couldn't get another bite down. Whereupon the girls and women came back with pies, a whole cart of steaming cherry and peach pies. Terry had thought he was full, but the smell of the pies started the hunger again, and he ate a huge slab of cherry pie and was finished with it when he saw that Waylon had not taken any pie and had eaten only a bite or two of his meat and potatoes. Wayne had eaten, but only a little, and the rest was uneaten. There was the look again between Wayne and Waylon, the quiet, still look Terry had seen before. And Wayne set his foot down softly next to the plate and nodded. That was it. "What's the matter with you guys?" Terry swallowed the last of the pie. "Why aren't you eating?" Waylon said nothing, but Peter had heard Terry, and he looked up over a huge forkful of pie. "Yes, why is it that you don't eat?" Wayne looked at Waylon. Waylon studied Peter, his eyes cool, expression flat. "Why aren't the girls and women eating?" Something in Waylon's voice caught Peter. He put his fork down, sat up straighter. "They do not eat with the men." "Why?" "It is forbidden. They eat in the kitchen." "Why?" "Because it is so. It is in the Bible." "That women don't eat with men?" "Yes." "No," Waylon said, his voice moving now to an edge. "It isn't." "Waylon," Wayne cut in, "maybe we ought to go." "Well, it doesn't," Waylon said. "I've read the Bible, studied it. It doesn't say anywhere in there that men and women can't eat together. That's some crap. Waylon, we have to leave now." Waylon stood, his shoulders loose, his hands hanging at his sides, and Terry thought, anything can happen now, here, anything. They were in a room full of young and old men, 20, 30 of them, strong men. The room grew quiet. Men put their eating utensils down, watched Waylon. "Yes," Peter said. "I think it is time that you should go now." I will when the girls eat," Waylon said. "In here. We do not live that way." "You're going to wish like hell you did," Waylon said, "in about 1 minute." Wayne moved around the table. Come on, Waylon. This isn't the right place to do this. It never is. Waylon stood for 15-20 seconds. Terry stared at him. Then Wayne touched Waylon's shoulder, pushed it, pulled it a small amount, and something seemed to go out of Waylon, like a spirit unwinding slowly, and it was over. We'll leave now, Wayne said softly. Thank you for the food. He moved Waylon easily toward the door, the whole mess hall watching, Terry following. Just as they were at the door, Peter said softly, I am sorry for you. Waylon stopped, his back stiffened, but Wayne nudged him, and he went through the door and out of the building to the waiting cat. Terry fired the engine, wrapped it up twice to get the noise heard. Heard Wayne do the same with Baby, and they left. Waylon said nothing, sat in silence for a good 10 miles, all the way back onto the highway, and remained quiet until Terry leaned over. You all right? Waylon jumped, startled. What? You all right? Sure. Why shouldn't I be all right? It was just all that back at the commune. You seemed really upset. It's slavery. They keep those women and girls like slaves, servants. Weren't you upset? Terry thought a minute. Well, no, I didn't think of it. Next time, Waylon looked at him, the wind ruffling the hair around his bald spot. Watched Terry for a long time, until Terry was uncomfortable. Think of it. I will, Terry said. I mean, I'll try. Good. Now let's go see Deadwood. And that is the end of this chapter.